Hello everyone, this is Victor here, and I thought that I would make a video kind of showcasing how I'm building my mod list for Skyrim Fits and Starts, and because people do ask, and I often comment on the Facebook group about different mod managers, and since I primarily use Mod Organizer, particularly for Skyrim Legacy Edition, I thought I'd make yet another video with Mod Organizer sort of showcased. There's a few others on my site, which are just, me using Mod Organizer because I like to see how people do things. It's the way I learn, and so I figured, it might be nice for people just to see someone using the thing. It's not a tutorial as such, but just this is how I use it. But to showcase that and the mod list that I'm using, here is the Manfred Testorson mod list that I used for the Prologue edition of Skyrim Fits and Starts. All right, so we'll just go through quickly here and look at it. There's a lot of mods here at the beginning. I tend to be a little bit, not terribly, but a little bit OCD about the way I organize mods, especially in Mod Organizer. Now, if those of you who've used Nexus Mod Manager, you'll notice huge differences here. Mod Organizer allows you to see a lot of stuff behind the curtain that Nexus Mod Manager does not. So it separates two very important things. It separates the mods, all of the mods, regardless of what's contained in the mod, and those are on the left side, from the plugins, which are all of the ESPs and ESMs, and those are on the right side. And those are the load order. That is the order in which the mods that have scripts and ESPs, etc., are loaded as the game starts. And the last mod wins in this case. So that's why there is a load order, and that's why there is a utility called loot, which one uses to make sure that your load order is as correct as it can be. You should also pay attention to mod authors' suggestions, and I call them suggestions because a lot of mod authors will say, my mod must be ordered last or first or whatever, and it's not necessarily true. They just want to make sure that they have fewer complaints or technical support questions, and often, since the last mod wins, it's best if they say my mod should be loaded last. But really good mod authors usually will say either it doesn't matter or specifically it needs to be loaded before or after this particular mod, so that things like perk enhancements or changes can be overwritten in the right direction. So enough of that. So here is my load list from Manfred Testorson. Now you'll notice down here on the bashed patch on the right side there's a missing master. That's because I've messed around with some things, and things are different for poor Manfred right now. But that's okay. It doesn't matter because we're not playing him right now. But this is the list that I used to create that character and those 15 episodes of the prologue. So let's just go through it really quickly. And a lot of these are what are known as SKSE plugins. These early ones here, they're sort of my base mods, my little tweaks and fixes for things. Crash Fixes is excellent. It keeps getting updated, and it is. And here's what you can see that it's a plugin for SKSE, and it has an INI file built into it, which the game will load, and you are then responsible for reading the instructions and reading through the INI file and turning on or off, using ones and zeros, things that you feel are causing a crash or are not. And these are common crashes. That's what Crash Fixes is all about. One tweak is for one thing mostly and one thing only, and that is, well, maybe two things. Borderless windows right here. The The memory patch is built in here, and a couple of other minor things. I use a mod called MFG Console that just shows a lot of extra information when you open up the tilde key console. That's not that important. And here are some of the other things that people are really familiar with. Harvest Overhaul, wonderful mod that allows you to pick more than one blue mountain flower, you know, from a big bunch. Some people consider it overpowered. Some people consider it essential. I'm in the latter group. If you are playing a strict alchemy build and you want a really, really balanced game the way the designers meant it to be balanced, then I suppose Harvest Overall could be considered overpowered. But I don't think it's overdone, and it does have an MCM menu that you can adjust things. You can adjust how much of, you know, what you want to collect. Everybody knows immersive HUD. More HUD is simply more information in your HUD, so that you see when you hover over things, you'll see, for instance, all their alchemical effects, things like that. That was just released for SE recently. Imaginator, even though I use an ENB occasionally, I will adjust things in Imaginator because that's just the way I like to do things. Sky UI, everybody knows Sky UI. Better Jumping is a great mod, and all it does essentially is enable double jump, so that you can, or double tap, so that you can jump a little bit higher and actually have something that resembles parkour, haha, in Skyrim or in any Elder Scrolls game for that matter. Better Stealing. Well, Better Stealing, it has a small INI built into it, and what it does is it allows you to set a threshold under which items you steal will not cause you to be arrested or have a bounty set against you. In other words, if you steal somebody's torch or some silly little thing like that, nobody's going to come after you for it. Makes sense to me. I like it for a thief build. Simply Knock is a wonderful mod that was it Chesko or Arthmore? I can't remember who built Simply Knock. Let's take a quick look. It allows you, Chesko, so it allows you to go to places that are locked for the day, a store, a house, or whatever, and actually knock on the door, and the person behind may answer, they may not. When they answer, you can ask to be let in. They may allow you to be, or they may not. And what happens after that is kind of up to you and them. It's fun. It's a fun mod. It doesn't cost a lot in terms of scripting, and it doesn't cause any real problems. When vampires attack just means people will run away when the vampires come. There's another one called Run for Your Lives, in which the NPCs will run away when the dragons come. It makes sense, and you don't end up with dead Alvors and Girders and people in Whiterun and stuff like that. I find that really annoying, frankly. It's just, I know, maybe it's a little realistic, but then you end up with dead bodies all over the place, and they persist, and you got to walk around them all the time, and you can lose NPCs that you need to interact with. It's just really annoying. So I like to load those things. Hush Doggy, because I hate dogs barking. Yes, Andrew, I still hate that. And some sound mods, immersive music. I love immersive music. It's unfortunately been taken down from the Nexus. I believe it's still down. Let's go check. Yep, because sadly Hoth Trooper ended up with some cranky issues with copyright and things, and so he had to take it down, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of great stuff on it. I use it. I may end up having my videos taken down, or YouTube might put something up against me because of it. I don't know. We'll find out, But so far I haven't had any problems with it. Climates of Tamriel. Majestic Mountains, I've taken that out of, we'll talk about that in a minute. And then from there, I go through, and this is where I keep all my landscape textures and things like that. So you'll see I like the Amidian-born landscapes, but I do enhance them with other things. Here's the vivid Dungeons and Ruins that I talked a lot about in the playthrough, the prologue playthrough. I do add these candle flames. This one is in Mod Organizer, when you see that little lightning bolt, it means that it's essentially redundant now. So if I don't want it to be, here's a little trick, and here's something that you can do in Mod Organizer, which is one of the things that makes it much more powerful than Nexus Mod Manager, or at least much easier to see how one thing affects another. This little blank lightning bolt means that it's been rendered redundant. If I move it down here under Static Mesh Improvement Mod, it should eventually update and become and turn into a yellow lightning bolt. What else? There are, I forget what. Anyway. Don't do that. Now I can't find it. I put it somewhere and it went away. Move down there. I screwed that up. Ultimate candle flames. So we're going to put that back here. Oh, I know what that's been overwritten by. Let's just take a look at that. Conflicts. Ruins clutter, that's right. So if I put that under ruins clutter improved, I believe it would change and reactivate itself. It doesn't matter. It's not that important. It's just a little candle flame. Lighting mods, some patches for vivid landscapes, some minor little things. Fences of Skyrim is great. It takes away those sort of interwoven fences and makes them more picket fence-like, and they don't flicker and they look better. Here's the hidden hideouts that I talked about a lot, and this is where my sort of city overhauls begin. So I'm using Settlements Expanded. Actually, Immersive Fallen Trees is kind of in the wrong place here. So let's just look at that. I want that in my landscape section, so I'm going to just move it right up here under Weidashbrum, which is my grass overhaul. So that's just me. I just like to have things somewhat ordered, because I always sort by priority. I don't sort by mod name or category. I'm always sorting by priority, so I always know this is it's similar to the plugin load order, but it is simply for overwrites. When you're installing a mod in Nexus Mod Manager and it asks you, do you want to overwrite this, and it gives you all these options: yes to mod, yes to all. You really need to know what you're doing in NMM when you answer those questions. In Mod Organizer gives you a visual representation of exactly that thing, and so it's a lot easier to figure out. And if you want to know what's overwriting what, you simply click on it and you look for the green above or the red below. And so this audio overhaul for Skyrim is being overwritten by this at some point. And you can see it by looking at conflicts. So the following conflicted files are provided by this mod, Immersive Sounds, not by Audio Overhaul for Skyrim. All right, so that's how that works. So now we go down, we look at the cities and towns, etc., all kinds of textures and changes and replacements. Here's that Palaces and Castles Enhanced that I talked a lot about. Skyrim Radioactive. I left the exteriors, the original exteriors mod, but it's being overwritten by the glorified version, and that's fine. The one spot that I'm still having issues with is the inside of Dragon's Reach, and I haven't really figured that out yet. And to be honest, doesn't seem to be causing any problems other than not seeing what I want. I'm not going to worry about it too much. And here's another one that I need to move up into my landscapes. So we're going to put that there. It's not a mod that gets overwritten or overwrites anything, so it doesn't really matter where it is in this side over here on the left side. It's simply a matter of categorizing things. So I'll put it up there. And here are some other, now we get into the animal section of my left pane, wolves and elk. I believe I mentioned this on the during the videos, but I think this one's been taken down. Yes, sadly, because it's getting replaced, and so it's been taken down until the author can replace it with a better mesh, and that's fine. But for now, I still keep it in there. Bees adds a little bit more stuff to the hives and a little higher texture. This is butterflies. It is overwriting a lot of things. A lot of things overwrite unofficial Skyrim Legendary Edition patch, and I let that happen. I put that at the top of my order instead of the bottom. It seems to cause less problems. And the things that don't get overwritten are the things that you really need the USleep mod to fix. Better Bears is fairly new. Just a little bit higher res texture for the bear's fur and stuff. Kawan did a lot of really excellent mods for things like Draugr and giants and stuff like that, and of course deadly dragons. And here are the few of my Mihail mods that I've added. There's a few more that I'm going to be adding to the next one. So then from there we start getting down into the really meaty stuff. And that's where I start loading things like convenient horses in the follower mod. I use EFF, not AFT. You got to make sure that your patches are where they need to be on this side as well as over on the right-hand side. Here's where I'm loading stuff for NPCs. College students just adds a few more NPCs to the College of Winterhold. Etc. So all of this stuff you've seen and heard me talk about on the Prologue edition of Skyrim Fits and Starts. So some of it you might be looking at and seeing familiar mods that lots of people use. Here's Bandolier. Here are some of the fix-it mods for things like weapons and clothing. These are both by a mod author named Cryptopeer, who's done lots of really excellent mods. You'll find several of hers in my load order. And so I keep those in the sort of, in the section near weapons and clothing. And we move down. Here's Campfire. Now, Campfire is a module of the Frostfall mod, empire, or whatever you want to call it. I don't use Frostfall. I think that for me, anyway, in my load orders, I don't need that. I may add it to one of these series, but I think that when it's in there, it's not the fault of Frostfall, but I think it's the fault of other mods that I use. I tend to get a little more crash, and that's just annoying. And I think Frostfall overdoes things to the extent where I have to nerf it down to 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 times instead of the 1.0 default settings. And so I feel like I've got enough realism with the needs mod that I need, and I figure I find that when I use Frostfall, I need tends to throw crashes. It's really not the fault of either mod, it's just the way things go. I do use Hunterborn. Trade and Barter is another Cryptopeer mod that just adjusts some of the amount of money that vendors have, for instance, is higher. Yes, that could be considered, OP or anti, design, but I think it's much better. Landlord is a much, I don't like it as much as a mod called RE, Real Estate, but it's less complicated and therefore causes less trouble. But with Landlord, you can rent, you can buy, rent, sell, etc. Real estate effectively. You can invest in people's in Hulda's. You can invest in Hulda at the Bannered Mare, or you can invest in Bellathor at Bellathor's shop. You can hire employees. You can hire guards for you to guard your investment. It's a pretty cool mod. I don't use it a lot, but I have put it in there. Then we get into the magic and all of the Enai Aeon stuff. Here are 2 combat mods that I used in the Prologue edition. That's going to change a little bit. Here's some alchemy stuff, and then we're getting down to the bottom where there's some patches and various other things. So that's Manfred Testorson. Now, here is my current thinking for the base build for Skyrim Fits and Starts. I've added some things. I've taken away a couple of things. and we're going to look at this a little, not in, I won't get quite so wordy, but things that I added. Here's the idea. I'm trying to create a stable load order that is versatile enough for any character that I might create. And so what I do is this: I have this base build here, and once I start a new series, I will start it in the base build, and then I will go into the manage section here. I will copy it over like I did with Manfred Testorson. I'll rename it whatever the new character's name is, and I'll go forth from there. I'll come back and I'll delete any saves in the base build file, and that's my sort of sacred base build. So what I've added and changed from Manfred Testorson's load order, I have added a couple of things. I've added Existential Alchemy, which is a mod that changes some of the, or many of the potion names. It changes some of the potion ingredients. It takes away a few things, and if you look at the mod author's page, he or she talks about it a lot. How they feel that some of the stuff in the vanilla game was overdone. Some of it made leveling alchemy way too easy, and they've tried to balance it a little bit better. And I think to an extent they've succeeded, and I put it in there because it's different. It's not the same old alchemy. And so one of my favorite, and I think a lot of people know about the salmon roe and all that crap, but Blue Mountain Flower and Hanging Moss make a damage magicka regeneration plus something else, which is usually kind of silly. It's like a fortify health, but it's usually at low levels, it's about a 250 to 300 gold potion. So you can make a ton of them and go sell them, make a bunch of money, and when you make them, of course, you're leveling up fast in alchemy because it's an expensive potion. Well, that's one of the things that this author has taken away, and good on him. Similar thing was done by Cryptopeer in her big mod called Complete Alchemy and Complete Alchemy and Cooking Overhaul, CACO, C-A-C-O, which is an excellent mod in which she does some very similar things, but right now it's kind of in a holding pattern because she and Chesko are working together very closely to try to integrate the mods so that this whole new Last Seed thing that Chesko's been working on, his needs mod adjunct or module to go with Frostfall, so you'll have Frostfall, Last Seed, Campfire, and Keiko all working together. But until then, I've decided to use this. I use Existential Alchemy and another mod called Alchemy Redone. Alchemy Redone is old. It seems to be very compatible with lots of things. It adds some really cool things to the alchemy system. It doesn't change a lot of the vanilla alchemy stuff, but it adds all kinds of these mystical, really medieval alchemy ingredients. It allows you to use heavy metals and things. It's all kinds of really cool stuff, and it's very much the kind of thing that you find out as you go along. He doesn't really go into a lot of detail in the mod description. He just lets you figure it out on your own, and it's very cool. And so you have now 4 different kinds of alchemy tools. You have a crucible, you have an alembic, you have a flask, and you have a mortar and pestle. And with those 4 different tools, you can make different things and combine reagents and retorts and things. It's very cool. I really enjoy it, and God knows if I'll ever get that far in any of these 10 or 15 level playthroughs, but it's still fun to have in there. Religion allows you to pray at shrines and gain buffs and advantages from the prayers that you make to your chosen deity. The notice board we've talked about, a nice little quest edition mod along with missives, which is the new one. Jobs of Skyrim is another really cool little mod that just it's a sort of a mini quest mod that just allows you to just pick up jobs like the archaeologist job that I picked up in the early part of the Prologue series. Sacrosanct is another Enai Saion mod that's for vampires. So all of these things are in there so that when I want to use one, if a character, if one of the characters I create or gets, you know, the random roll comes out as a vampire, well, I have Sacrosanct built in already. And the same thing for a character who might end up in the vanilla quest, or at least using a lot of shouts. Thunderchild is there. Ordinator, of course, is there. I consider that almost essential now. And a lot of these other trade routes. This is an older mod that allows you to buy things in areas, or excuse me, harvest things or mine items in areas where they're plentiful, like silver in Markarth, and then sell them in areas where they are not plentiful for a profit. Makes a lot of sense, right? It's really cool, and it works very well. What else? I added a very cool little mod. I don't know how well it's going to work. It's up here in this section here, Atlas the Pack Pony. I figure, well, if one of my characters becomes a merchant, he will go and find Atlas. Atlas is a little mule that drags a cart around behind him that you could use if you play a merchant type character. I did add OBIS to this load order over. Manfred did not have OBIS in it. I added the Immersive College of Winterhold, which I love. Hopefully that'll remain stable, but for a mage character, I consider that one almost essential, along with Apocalypse and Lost Grimoire, which are in here somewhere. So that's a look behind the scenes of what I hope will be a stable build for any one of my characters. There are a few other, and you can see in here, if I click down here so you can see all the mods that I have loaded there are over 700 in my file here. Some of them are patches and things like that don't really count, but there are 720 distinct mods of various kinds. And this is on the far left. You can sort. So, what have I done to prepare for this? Here you have a very complex. Well, not very, but a somewhat complex mod load list. And what are the two most important things that you need to do when you mod this way? Number one is know what you're doing and read the descriptions. Did I say the two most important things? The most important things, forget the two part. Know what you're doing, read the descriptions, read the compatibility lists that the mod authors publish on their pages on the Nexus. Use the Nexus, please. Don't go to Steam. Don't go to Bethesda unless you're on a console. Just use the Nexus. So once you've done all that, once you've got if you're using Nexus Mod Manager, either one, you can use what you want. What's the first thing you need to do before you start playing the game? Run loot. All right. You can run loot from inside Nexus or inside either one of these two programs, and loot will pop up. It will look at your current list in either one, in Nexus Mod Manager or Mod Organizer. It will look at that, and then you tell it to sort the plugins. It will sort them. If you like what you see, you can either change things or not. Then you tell it to apply the load order, and it does it. Number two, a bashed patch. Bashed patches are really important. There's lots of information on how to make them. It requires an older mod manager called Rybash, which some people still use as a mod manager, but most people only use it now to create the bashed patches. And what bashed patches do is they even things out. So because, as I said, and everybody knows who's done any modding, the last mod wins in order, you can have things that overwrite values, particularly armor and weapon values and things like that, so you end up with weird things happening. So Rybash will try to resolve those issues. And so let's just take a look at what it looks like when you run it from inside Mod Organizer, which you should do. and I'll explain that in a moment. So rybash will pop open. Here it's going to give me a little ding dong. It knows that it's already created a bash patch, so it's not going to, it actually didn't give me the warning this time. So if I wanted to make a new patch, I would say rebuild patch, and it would give me this little menu here. Mostly you want to merge patches, you want the level lists checked, and I leave these other ones checked as well. Some people uncheck them and use a different way of making those. I tend to stick to the bashed patch only. If I start to have really big crash problems, then I might try to do something a little more advanced. But anyway, you build the patch. Now, I've done all that, so I'm not going to do it again. But what I haven't done is one of the really powerful functions of Mod Organizer. So when Mod Organizer detects a file or something that is being used by mods in your load list, and it doesn't quite know what to do with it, it puts it in a file called the overwrite. Now, this is one of the most powerful things about Mod Organizer. What Mod Organizer does that is so distinctly different from Nexus Mod Manager is that it segregates your mods from your base game directory. This is really powerful, all right, because if you have all of your mods loaded in the data directory, which is where Skyrim wants to put its mods. Now you look and see my data directory is pristine, all right? That's because I use Mod Organizer for my Legacy Skyrim game. This is exactly the way your data directory would look, except for the SKSE directory here, if you did a clean install of the game. Where are all the mods? The mods are in Mod Organizer. They are in the downloads directory, which has uninstalled mods, and then the mods directory. And here is this immense mods directory. How big is it? Well, let's take a look. It is currently, well, it might take a while. Let's let that just, so you can see all of the mods that I have installed in the game, that I have activated or installed under Mod Organizer are listed here, 120 gigabytes worth. And Mod Organizer keeps a record of which profile those mods are activated in, and that's under profiles here. And so you may recognize there, okay, so here's Manfred Testorson. This is the directory for Manfred Testorson. It includes discrete INI files. That's very important. It includes the mod list, which is a text file that shows all of your mods, and it has a little plus next to the ones that are active and a minus next to the ones that are not. It has a plugins list. These are all of your ESPs and ESMs in order. All right, so that's what makes Mod Organizer so bloody powerful. It keeps things separated, so you always have a clean base. So I always keep a vanilla profile, and that's right here. The only thing I keep in that isn't vanilla is this cleaned ESMs, and that's not something that I need to even discuss right now. If you want to know what cleaning your vanilla ESMs means, go look up Gopher's great video on doing it. So back to base build. What have I not done yet that Mod Organizer allows me to do? And that is to take this bashed patch that I just made, which Mod Organizer as a whole doesn't quite know what to do with, and I make this bash patch work just for this profile. And I do that by checking my overwrite, and there's the bashed patch with a couple of little directories that rybash creates. I right click on overwrite, I write create mod, and then I give it a name. So I'm going to just call it SFaS hyphen base build bash. All right. Click OK. Now, once that's done, the bashed patch that was created by rybash disappears from my plugins order, and it reappears unchecked. There it is, SFaS hyphen base build bash. So I'm going to activate that. The bashed patch will reappear over here on the right side, and when you hover over it, you can see all the things that the bashed patch has. Well, I can't point at them, but if you look at that, you'll see all the different mods that rybash found records in that needed to be resolved. So you'll see things like existential alchemy and armor compilation. Usually you'll find armor mods that aren't just retextures. You'll find weapons mods. You'll find sometimes NPC mods, things that add stuff that have conflicts of values. So anyway, that's a little look behind the scenes, and that's a little look at what will hopefully be a stable load order for my upcoming first real season of Skyrim Fits and Starts. And I think I've pretty much talked myself out here. I don't think there's much else I can say. I hope that I've covered anybody's questions. I hope I've convinced you, if you were on the fence, of how wonderful a tool Mod Organizer is for Legacy Skyrim. I will say this, that the original author of Mod Organizer has been hired and has been working for the Nexus for over a year now, I think, on their updated version of Nexus Mod Manager. So presumably, and I've said this before in one or two other places, when the new edition comes out, it will have a lot of the features that Mod Organizer has. So it'll be able to be, hopefully, it will be not a jack of all trades, master of none, but it will try to be both powerful and simple. It will have the ability to do what I'm doing here, as well as be simple for people who don't need a lot of power under the hood. What else have I not covered here? I think I've pretty much talked long enough. So I hope that was of some help, and the next video will be my setup in the game video, where I open up, pick a character, or pick a face from the, but also what I set up the mods that need to be set up in the MCM, and I'll go through that and show people how I do that. That's another kind of visual thing that I hope helps people just learn how to do stuff without having a pedantic tutorial. So again, thanks for watching, and I hope I have given you some things to think about and consider. And if you do want to learn how to use Mod Organizer from a master tutorial maker, I encourage you to go to Gopher's site and find his videos. I encourage you to go to Gamer Poets, who makes very good, if a little overly overdone perhaps, but very comprehensive videos on how to do these things. Dirty Weasel also makes excellent tutorials on how to do Mod Organizer. So those three sources alone will give you most of what you need to know on how to use both Mod Organizer and Nexus Mod Manager. So until next time, thanks for listening, and have a great day.